When many thought that the Golden State Warriors empire was coming to an end, the team once again proved that its essence is reinvention. Instead of accepting the natural decline that comes with time, the board made a bold decision to reimagine the future without giving up the glorious past. It is not just about renewing players or promoting occasional trades, but about building a new foundation capable of keeping alive the flame that changed the NBA in the last decade. Golden State has never been just an ordinary team. It has become a symbol of adaptation and innovation, always seeking new ways to win without losing its identity. That is how it revolutionized modern basketball, with long-range shooting, intelligent off-ball movement, and a collective philosophy that values the mind over physical force. Now, that same spirit that broke paradigms is beginning to announce a new chapter before the watchful eyes of fans and analysts around the world. Within this scenario emerges the figure of Rens Abando, a name that until recently was restricted to the Philippines, but who exploded in the last Basketball World Cup. His way of playing combines energy, audacity, and resilience, sparking curiosity in everyone who follows him. He is not just another forward with potential. He represents living unpredictability, the ability to break defensive schemes with unexpected moves. In a team that thrives on speed, improvised cuts, and versatility, Abando fits like a piece tailor-made for the system. Steve Kerr, who has always known how to take advantage of multifunctional players, already sees in Abando a cog capable of creating new tactical dimensions. His ability to alternate between different roles on the court expands the team's possibilities and reinforces the chameleon-like style that has made the Warriors so feared. More than technical impact, however, Abando carries with him the passion of an entire nation. For Filipinos, basketball is not just a sport, it is identity. His arrival in the Bay Area becomes a symbolic gesture that connects millions of fans to a team already steeped in grand stories. But the Warriors' plans are not limited to a single name. Kaisoto also enters this equation, bringing with him something that has been a need for the team for years: defensive solidity in the paint. Standing over 2 meters tall with an impressive wingspan, the Filipino center is a potential wall. His presence intimidates any opponent who dares to attack the painted area, and unlike many young players of his stature, Sotto already shows promising offensive tools, including a mid-range shot that could redefine the way the Warriors build spacing on the floor. Soto's resume outside the United States reinforces his readiness. He has faced physical defenses and intense pressure in foreign leagues, showing a rare maturity for his age. Arriving in the NBA, he does not land as a raw rookie, but as someone tested in different arenas, carrying on his shoulders the expectations of a nation. His presence on the Warriors is not only technical, but also symbolic. It is the union of different cultures in a team that has always breathed diversity. The Golden State Board is clear that the future cannot be built on promises alone. Balance between experience and youth is necessary, and this is where the importance of names like Stephen Curry and Draymond Green comes in. They are not just icons of championships. They are mentors, voices that will guide new talents within the collective culture that turned the team into a global model. For the newcomers, learning from these figures is more than a professional opportunity. It is the chance to inherit a philosophy that has already challenged giants and broken barriers. The task of integrating different generations is never simple, but it is precisely in this friction between youthful freshness and consolidated experience that dynasties are forged. Steve Kerr, in this process, assumes the role of architect and teacher. His mission is to find the exact balance between patience and daring, ensuring that the youngsters do not get lost in the pursuit of immediate results, but also that the team does not waste its potential. External pressure exists, but the Warriors have already proven before that they know how to turn time into titles. The magic lies in transforming raw talent into real performance. On this chessboard, Abando and Sotto become strategic pieces. The first, with his explosive unpredictability, the second with his defensive solidity and offensive evolution. Added to guards capable of dictating the tempo and veterans who understand the complexity of the game, they form a group capable of rewriting the Californian empire. The Warriors' style has never depended solely on isolated stars. The philosophy has always been the sum of complementary talents. That is why the arrival of the Filipinos makes so much sense. They are not coming to carry the team alone, but to amplify what already exists and expand Kerr's strategies. This combination of youth and experience creates an energy that even infects the most veteran players. Curry, for example, finds in the support of new talents the chance to extend his career without having to play at maximum physical effort every night. He can manage his minutes and still maintain his brilliance thanks to the speed and alternatives that Abando and Sotto bring to the attack. Draymond, in turn, sees in Sotto a kind of partner who can relieve part of the defensive responsibility, allowing him to play in a more strategic and even daring way. The impact of this project, however, is not limited to the court. Off it, the Filipino community already celebrates each piece of news connecting their players to Golden State. In parts of California where there is a strong presence of Filipino immigrants, the cultural bond grows rapidly. The stands gain new flags, and the atmosphere new chants. It is not just basketball, but identity. The team builds a bridge between cultures and expands the sense of belonging for fans spread across the planet. This strategy does not escape the eyes of the NBA, which has for years sought to expand its global audience. Asia is a priority market, and the arrival of Filipino talents in one of the most popular franchises in the world only accelerates this process. This means greater viewership, new commercial contracts, and new business opportunities for the league and for the franchise itself. Abando and Sotto, therefore, represent more than sporting potential. They are catalysts of a new phase of basketball globalization. Even so, the success of this project requires consistency. Golden State understands that it is not enough to create emotional narratives. They must be sustained with victories. That is why the organization is dedicated to meticulous planning. There is psychological support, advanced physical preparation, data analysis, and all the invisible work that turns promises into reality. In training, Abando already shows more patience, learning to choose his moments without losing his aggressive essence. Sotto, on the other hand, focuses on lateral mobility and reaction timing, adjusting the details that make the difference in the NBA's frantic rhythm. The fans, always impatient, are already starting to project the future. Some believe this could be the beginning of a new dynasty. Others see only a transition phase. But everyone agrees on one thing: the Warriors are not ready to give up their relevance. The mentality that no one is bigger than the collective remains intact in the locker room, serving as a guide for the young players arriving. Being part of the Warriors means much more than wearing a jersey. It is carrying a culture that has already proven to the world that the impossible can be achieved. This is perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the current story. The team does not just survive time, but transforms it into opportunity. The Californian empire has not ended. It has only changed shape, and each new chapter reinforces the idea that Golden State remains one of the protagonists of the NBA. The blend of tradition and innovation becomes almost poetic, as if the team were writing a book with no end, with commas instead of full stops. For the future, the projections are bold. Imagine a lineup where Curry commands the perimeter, Abando attacks with unpredictable drives, and Sotto protects the paint with authority. Around them, established players complement the chemistry while Kerr orchestrates the spectacle. The result could be surprising. The championship window, which many believed was closing, could extend with renewed brilliance. What few see is the Warriors' ability to manipulate their own timeline. They do not try to repeat the past, but to create something new, adapted to the league's present. That is the true secret of the dynasty. The ability to reinvent itself without losing its essence. Abando and Sotto are not just reinforcements, they are symbols of an era in the making, a new story being written before the eyes of millions around the world. And the most interesting thing is that all of this goes beyond the boundaries of the court. For Filipinos, seeing their compatriots shine in one of the greatest franchises in NBA history is a cultural milestone. For the league, it is a chance to reach new audiences. For the Warriors, It is proof that they still know how to turn challenges into opportunities. With each training session, each game, each victory, the team reaffirms that the magic of the Bay Area does not depend on the past, but on the ability to always create the future. The Golden State Warriors have always found ways to turn doubt into fuel. Every time critics declared the end of their hegemony, the franchise responded with reinvention and new triumphs. This resilience has become part of the team's DNA, a trait that now resurfaces once again with the arrival of emerging talents such as Abando and Sotto. The history of basketball shows that few teams manage to span generations without falling into obscurity. But the Warriors seem to have grasped the formula, aligning legacy and future on the same line of continuity. This balance, however, is not something that happens automatically. It requires meticulous planning that goes far beyond signings. It demands long-term vision and the courage to take risks on names that at first glance do not carry the same popularity as established superstars. This is where the brilliance of the Californian front office lies, betting on potential still in development, but with all the necessary elements to flourish within the culture established by the franchise. Observing the immediate impact Abando has had in the Philippines makes it clear why this choice is so powerful. Every step he takes on the court is followed by millions of attentive eyes, loaded with expectation. He does not play only for himself, but for an entire country that sees itself reflected in his journey. That pressure can be a burden for some, but for others it turns into motivation. And it is precisely this psychological aspect that the Warriors intend to harness, providing Abando with the structure necessary to translate that energy into results in the NBA. In Sotto's case, the narrative takes an equally symbolic path. A center of his height and wingspan is not only a defensive asset, but also a reference point for the future. In recent years, the NBA has seen the rise of a new generation of big men capable of combining physical dominance with offensive versatility. Players who are not confined to the paint, but expand their roles beyond the traditional zones. Sotto fits this trend and, under Kerr's guidance, could become a rare piece, able to provide both rim protection and fluidity on offense. The fusion of these promising youngsters with established veterans creates an environment of mutual learning. For Curry, leading this transition is almost like closing a cycle, giving back to the game everything he once received. His presence is not just technical, it is inspirational. Every practice, every locker room conversation, every instruction on the floor is a lesson that shapes the newcomers. Draymond, meanwhile, remains the most intense voice, the one who demands, provokes, and ignites the competitive fire in the youngsters. His connection with Sotto could be particularly valuable, as the Filipino center will find in him a mirror of intensity and defensive responsibility. What makes this stage so intriguing is precisely the clash of perspectives. On one side, the experience of those who have already lifted trophies and know the weight of an NBA Finals. On the other, the boldness of those arriving eager to prove they deserve their place. This mixture creates tension, but also generates growth. Within the Warriors, internal competition has never been a problem. On the contrary, it has always served as the engine for every player to raise their level. One cannot ignore, too, the media impact of this transition. The mere fact of Filipino players being linked to such a prestigious franchise already sends waves on a global scale. Sports broadcasts attract new audiences, digital platforms record unprecedented engagement, and international brands see a golden opportunity to associate themselves with this movement. Golden State is not only investing in athletes, it is expanding its cultural and economic reach to levels rarely seen in the history of sport. Even so, it is in the day-to-day where the real transformation takes place. In the silent practices, in the almost invisible adjustments, in the behind-the-scenes conversations. It is there that Kerr shapes his new masterpiece, polishing talents and refining schemes. The work is painstaking and often invisible to those who only follow the televised games. But it is this underground process that defines whether a promise will become a star or be lost along the way. Meanwhile, the fans live in the duality between nostalgia and hope. Many still carry in their memory the epic battles against LeBron James, the heated rivalries with the Houston Rockets, and the championships won on historic nights. At the same time, they are beginning to imagine what it will be like to see Abando breaking through defenses with his explosiveness and Sotto raising decisive blocks against the league's top centers. This transition between memories and expectations creates an emotional bond that keeps the flame burning, and the future, however uncertain, looks promising. If the Warriors manage to maintain their collective identity while at the same time allowing the new talents to flourish, they could write one of the most fascinating chapters in their history. It will not be a mere extension of the previous era, but a new narrative, with different protagonists and equally intense challenges. The basketball world is watching, waiting to see if this boldness will be rewarded with new glories. Golden State, therefore, is not merely preparing for another season. It is paving a road that could redefine its relationship with the NBA and with the global audience. While honoring its past, it looks forward with courage, ready to turn risks into victories. And perhaps that is exactly what has always set the Warriors apart: the ability to believe in the impossible, to reinvent themselves in the face of adversity, and to keep alive the essence that the collective is always greater than any individual. What stands out most about this moment for the Warriors is not just the boldness of their signings or the immediate cultural impact. It is the sense that we are witnessing a silent transformation, almost invisible, but one that could erupt at any moment into something grand. The great dynasties have always been built in layers, with risky choices and patience in shaping talent. Golden State seems to be repeating that formula, but in a completely new context, where the pressure is greater and the expectations more global than ever. Inside the locker room, the atmosphere mixes nostalgia and future. The veterans, accustomed to epic battles, understand that they are approaching their final stretch, but they do not see this as an obstacle. On the contrary, they view the arrival of the young players as a way to extend the brilliance. They know they cannot sustain the pace alone, and they see in Abando and Sotto not only teammates but heirs to a tradition that must continue. This relationship between generations creates an invisible chain that links past, present, and future along the same line. From a strategic standpoint, Steve Kerr finds himself in a unique position. He is no longer just the coach who built the most revolutionary system of the last decade. Now, he must become the mediator of a transition, the man capable of uniting different eras into a single philosophy. His ability to teach fundamentals, to stimulate creativity, and to demand discipline will be tested as never before. Kerr has always believed that the beauty of the game lies in the collective, and this belief must be instilled in every new player who wears the blue and gold jersey. It is impossible not to notice that there is something almost symbolic about the arrival of talents from the Philippines. The NBA has always expanded through names that represented new cultural frontiers. In the past, it was players from Europe, then from Latin America, who opened doors. Now it is Asia's turn to take center stage, and the Warriors are at the forefront of this movement. For Filipinos, seeing Abando and Sotto in the United States is not only a matter of national pride, it is the confirmation that they too are part of the greater narrative of global basketball. But the impact is not limited to the emotional side. In practical terms, the presence of these athletes is already starting to generate perceptible changes. Sponsor interest is growing, broadcasts to the Asian market are gaining more traction, and even the atmosphere inside the arena is changing. New chants, new flags, a renewed energy. Basketball, after all, has always been more than statistics. It is culture, passion, collective identity, and the Warriors know how to use that element better than most. Of course, the path will not be simple. Youth brings with it mistakes, inconsistency, moments of instability. It is normal for Abando to have nights when his daring leads to wasted possessions, or for Sotto to struggle when guarding more experienced and agile big men. But it is precisely in this learning process that stars are forged. What matters is not immediate perfection, but the ability to learn from every mistake, to turn each stumble into fuel for growth. The fans, in turn, are living this expectation intensely. On social media, debates already divide opinions. Some believe that the Warriors are merely creating a media spectacle, with no guarantees of real success. Others argue that this is the only viable path to remain competitive without abandoning the identity that made the team great. Between doubts and hopes, one certainty remains. No one can ignore what is happening in San Francisco, and perhaps that is the franchise's greatest triumph so far. In a saturated sporting landscape where stories often repeat themselves, the Warriors have found a way to create something new, to spark curiosity, and to keep the world watching. The building of this new empire will not be immediate, but every detail points in a clear direction. The future will not merely be a shadow of the past, but an entirely new narrative, with different protagonists and an even greater global dimension. This long-term vision requires discipline. The management knows that it is not enough to rely on the talent of the young players. They must be surrounded with support. Strength coaches, performance analysts, sports psychologists, nutritionists, all are part of an ecosystem working to turn promise into concrete results. It is an invisible but decisive investment, because in the end, championships are not won only on the court. They are prepared behind the scenes, in every detail that builds performance. Meanwhile, Curry continues to be the compass. His leadership is not based on fiery speeches, but on daily example. He is the first to arrive at practice, the last to leave, the one who inspires the youngest without needing words. For Abando and Sotto, this coexistence is a real-time school. They are not just learning plays or systems, but the mindset of a champion, and that is a legacy that can change the course of a career. Amidst it all, one question echoes in every conversation. How far can this project go? Are the Warriors laying the foundations of a new dynasty? Or are we simply witnessing a transition to keep the team competitive as the veteran idols say goodbye? The answer, as always, will come from the court. But one thing is already clear. Golden State does not accept the idea of being just a supporting act. The ambition is still to be the protagonist, and every move made so far reinforces that determination. And so, what once seemed like the end of an era reveals itself as the beginning of a new journey. The Golden State Warriors are not just reinventing their roster, they are writing a new chapter that could transform the NBA and move fans around the world. Abando and Sotto are more than young talents. They symbolize the future, carry the energy of a passionate nation, and bring with them the promise that the Warriors' flame will continue to burn for many years. The balance between experience and youth, between past and future, creates a powerful narrative that only time will reveal in full. And now I want to know from you, do you believe this new generation will be able to honor the legacy and create a new dynasty? Can you imagine the Warriors returning to the top with this mix of veterans and new protagonists? If you also believe in this bright future, then leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because here you will always find deep analysis, exclusive behind-the-scenes coverage, and content that no one else shows. Come along with us, because this Warriors story is just beginning, and I want you with me until the very end.